Cool. So just to get started, I think you can just, Mr. Pako, you can just maybe briefly introduce yourself. Also, we just want to make sure that we have the right person in the room. Then we can take it from there.
Right. Thanks so much. I've put on my video. Hope you can see me from your end.
Yes,
let me know.
We can see you. Yes.
All right. Awesome. All right. No, thanks for having me this evening. It's really great. I know we've been talking about this for a couple of weeks now, and I'm really glad to just see it come together and actually come to life. So it's really great. And thank you to everyone else on the call as well. I mean, it's a Tuesday evening. It's a bit chilly, so you could be watching Netflix, having your tea or coffee, and doing all sorts of things, to just keep warm and comfortable in your own home. So I appreciate you guys taking the time to join in on the conversation, and I look forward to any questions and any thoughts as well that you might have around personal branding.
Okay, cool. So part of the main theme of this conversation is built around personal branding, and part of the reason why I assume that a lot of people joined it is because they also want to get a sense of, since you've been in the space, you have like a better understanding, a better view of how actually people can approach this, especially when it comes to either their professional life or maybe their business life. So suppose I'm part of this meeting, and I've had people talk about personal branding and how and why it's important and all that kind of stuff, but I don't really have a clear understanding of, if I were to start working on my own personal brand, where exactly would I start? So if you were to maybe explain this to like a 7-year-old, like in simple terms, what personal branding is, what would it sound like? Just in case I'm here and I want to learn a little bit about this topic, and also I would like to apply it in my own personal life.
Yeah. So the best way to explain what personal branding is that it's your reputation. It's as simple as that. Your personal brand is your reputation. And your reputation is based on basically 3 things. How you present yourself, how you show up, how you dress. Then thirdly is your character, how you carry yourself and how you treat those around you. Then lastly is your speech, how you speak about yourself and how you speak about others. And from these 3 things, one can then surmise the kind of person that you are. So in terms of how you brand yourself, the starting point is always having a value proposition. I like saying that personal branding is very similar to marketing. The only difference is that you are marketing yourself. You are the product, and you are the salesman or the salesperson at the same time. Yeah, so you start there with a value proposition, then you build onwards from there, working around those 3 pillars.
Okay, so you are basically the product, and you are also you are the product that you yourself are actually selling. Okay, but if we were to expand a little bit on that, right, around, okay, cool, I do understand, like you talk about the 3 anchors of personal branding, right? But when it comes to its importance, not only in the business space, because now you've actually had a lot of people talk about personal branding and why it's important and all that kind of stuff. You, as a personal branding consultant, right, you probably have worked with a lot of people around the same topic, right? So, but yeah, like as I said, when I asked the first question around, I'm here and now I have a little bit of an understanding of, it's basically me promoting myself, it's basically me selling myself, putting out there my strength, putting out there my core, and then, but in terms of how important is this when it comes to advancing your business and maybe advancing your career? Because even in the business space, you also hear people talking about that, even if you have a company, you are CEO of a company, you also need a personal brand, right? So how important is this in advancing your business or maybe advancing your career life?
So I'd say I'll start with business, right? So in terms of business, especially if you're running a small business or an upcoming business, you are the face of the company. because you are the person that speaks most about the company. So you sell and you market the company, and by default you are the brand ambassador for your business. Therefore, you and the business are tied at the hip. You are joined at the hip. So any positive traits that you have, or any, let's say, your brand equity, your personal brand equity, if I like and respect you as a person, that same virtue is extended to the business that you are running. And conversely, if I don't trust you as much as a person and I don't find you reliable, I extend that same perception to the business that you are running. And so you cannot separate the two. What's best is to leverage on that. And if you look at how business people do it in the first world, if you look at Steve Jobs, Bill Gates, Elon Musk, they all ride on their personal brands. And actually, you'd find that they have a larger following personally than the companies themselves. And so it's something which works in a kind of, I'd say, the synergy between the personal brand and the corporate brand. So instead of running away from it, what's working for a number of people out there is to go with the flow and use it to their advantage.
Okay. So would I say that you actually mentioned something very, I mean, that I found very important, right? Around the fact that you basically become the face of the business. So if I don't trust you, then that is also extended to your business, meaning whatever your business does, and then I start questioning its credibility, right? So you also mentioned something along the lines of you basically become the reflection of the business that you maybe represent. But in a professional environment, how does that look like? For example, I'm not running a business, but I'm an employee, and I've actually had people talk about the fact that it's also important to have a personal brand even in the workplace. So how does that look like in a work environment? Where do I start? Maybe I've been employed for the past 10 years and I haven't been like a very good employee, right? And now I want to start changing things a little bit. Where do I begin there? Or I've just started working and I don't, literally no one knows me. The big bosses don't really know my name, but I really want to build a name for myself. Where do I start? How do I, on what should I anchor myself?
So the first thing that you start with is understanding what your strength is, understanding what your unique value proposition is. You might be good at presentations, you may be excelling at writing, or you might be really great when it comes to Excel. So there is something in particular that you do exceptionally well compared to most people in the workplace. So then your role in branding yourself is to ensure that you create opportunities to showcase what it is that you do well. And the more you do that consistently, the more you then become top of mind when there's talk of opportunities. If you're good at presentations, the day there's a need for someone to pitch to a client or to make a presentation to staff, your name comes to mind because you've branded yourself as someone who is good in this field. So you have a specific brand that you have, and then you basically get to attract opportunities in line with the brand that you have built for yourself.
So you position yourself in a particular way, and in that way, you're able to attract opportunities that are aligned with how you've actually positioned yourself.
100%. And to take it a step further than that, so beyond just your skill and your talent, you have to look at your character and your mannerisms and presentation in the workplace. So to brand yourself means that you have to be presentable. You have to take care of how you show up in the workplace, how you dress to work, how your desk looks, and just everything to do with your image in the workplace. Now, this doesn't mean that you have to dress fancy or wear expensive clothes. Just be consistently presentable. Then the other thing is to have a set of values that you live by in the workplace. Aim to be professional, courteous, and respectful in the workplace, such that everyone that talks to you or has an interaction with you in the workplace, they get the same positive outcome out of dealing with you. And the more people deal with you, the more you basically market yourself in the workplace as someone that is very professional and respectful in the office. Yeah.
So what happens when I'm more of an, and I'm actually asking this question because I think even personally, I struggled when I started working. I would be, even at school, I'll be that guy who would sit like literally at the back. I wouldn't want anyone to notice that I even exist. So what if I'm an intro, like I'm not like out there always, you know, saying, see me, see, I'm working on this and all that kind of. So for introverts, like how do you how should they approach this? Because I know that they don't like attention, they don't like to be seen, they don't want to be, literally you always want to make sure that no one notices that you're around. But if you're in that kind of a person, how do I put myself out there without, I don't know.
Yeah, so I get you. I mean, I myself grew up as very reserved and an introvert as well. So I can totally relate with what you're saying. It's only over the past couple of years that I've really pushed myself out of my shell. So as an introvert, branding yourself in the workplace will definitely mean you have to embrace being uncomfortable. Embrace the discomfort that comes with putting yourself out there. That's the first thing. Know that it'll be uncomfortable and make peace with the fact that you'll have to get into moments where you need to stretch yourself beyond your usual limits, basically. And then beyond that is to break it down into bite-sized pieces. If you want to be more outgoing and engaging in the workplace, start with saying, okay, in a week or a month, I want to talk to 3 people that I don't directly work with. I'm going to make an effort to just talk to just 3 people in this month. And I'm going to just have a basic general conversation with them. And then you say, for me to talk to new people that I don't know, what do I need? Or rather, what skills do I need to have? The first is small talk. Small talk is a science and it's an art. So you need to take time and just do a bit of research, how to strike up a conversation, how to keep it going, and how to know when to let go of a conversation. Now, these are things that are seemingly simple, but there is a science to striking up a chat, keeping it ongoing, then knowing how to tone it down and slowly exit from the chat.
Okay.
Yeah.
Tell me here, right? So I'm listening to you and literally I hear you with my heart, right? I can connect with what you are actually saying. So what inspired you to actually go down this route? Is it a gap that you'd identified? What really, if I met you 10 years ago or 15 years ago, would you say that, 15 years from now, I would be specializing in personal branding? What inspired you?
I think if 10 years ago you had told me I'd be doing what I do today, personal branding, public speaking, and all of this, I would have laughed it off, because it's the polar opposite of who I grew up as.
Yes.
Yeah, it's totally opposite. So let's travel back in time, right? Let's go back to 2016, right? So the year is 2016. And I just did a course called Investment in Excellence. It's offered by the Pacific Institute. So it's a mindset course. It's a high performance mindset course. And there's one concept that struck out to me in this course, right? It's a concept called self-image. And as the term implies, it's how you view yourself. It's the thoughts, the perceptions that you have about you, basically. And from that course, I picked that up and it really struck a chord with me. Growing up as an introvert, you think of yourself a lot, but unfortunately in negative light. You have a lot of doubt, when it comes to you and you being able to perform as well as other people. So I worked on my mindset and my perception, and the more I viewed myself positively, the more I valued myself, the more I gravitated towards wanting to present myself in a more serious light, because I viewed myself as someone who has a certain amount of worth and value. And the more I focused on that kind of thinking, I just wanted to dress better. I wanted to just start wearing suits and being presentable, and having my clothes being neat and tidy, shoes polished and everything. I morphed into someone else, basically, into, I'd say, an upgraded version of myself. And the more I did that, the more I discovered that I stumbled upon personal branding, which is all about packaging yourself based on how you see yourself. And so I worked it out, and eventually started reading more about personal branding, what it is. And ultimately, I said, you know what, I've tried this out. It's worked for me. I've gotten positive feedback from people on this in the office around me and the likes. What if I was to teach this to other people who also grew up as introverts? Yeah, and that's how I got here.
Okay. So if there's one or two things that you feel that I mean, having been in this space for some time, right?
Yeah.
Are the things that you feel that maybe you could have done better or differently?
So I think looking back, certainly something that I could have done better was learning to, I'd say, to split a line between giving back and running a business. Because what I did started out of me wanting to help people and to give back. But the time I turned it into a business, I was so caught up in that mindset of wanting to help people and just doing it all for free. So it was now moving from it being free, right, to me now having to charge people. Now, because it started from such a good heart, when I charged, it was there. So I found that I was undercharging because I was feeling bad. I was like, hey, you know what? I know these guys can't really afford this, so let me just price it low.
A little bit.
Exactly. But the problem with pricing low is that then it talks to the value of the brand,
Yes.
because then the brand becomes accessible to everyone. Now everyone can afford it, and there's nothing special about it anymore. So for the first couple of years, exactly. So for the first couple of years, the brand was set really low and just accessible to basically everyone, and that would then affect the pricing and everything. And I think the second thing that I did, or that I failed to do rather, was that I failed to, I'd say, to expand my services, because I started off with public speaking, giving talks in schools, in companies, in government offices and the likes. And then I was doing that for the longest time. So it took COVID actually and lockdowns coming up to show me that, you know what, you can't always be doing speaking, because now there are no gigs, people are indoors. And then I had to look into other services, such as coaching people with interviews, job interviews, media interviews, and the likes, and adding other layers to the business. So it's something that, that took a while for me to bring on, and I only brought it on because of the disruption that came about through COVID.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So you've actually mentioned like a few interesting things that I would like us to expand on, right? But before I get to those ones, in terms of what you mentioned, that you actually started reading a lot of books around personal branding, confidence, positive thinking, and all that kind of stuff. What are the two best books that you would maybe recommend, that if there's someone in this session and they would like to, maybe they're feeling the way you were feeling 5 years ago about yourself, the way you would see yourself, and they would want to start building building themselves up. You mentioned the thing around pushing yourself out of your shell. So maybe there's someone in the session and they actually want to start working on that. What books would you recommend from the ones that you have, of course, read yourself?
Okay, I'd say that the top book, and I think I should add that it's hard to find books around personal branding that's specific to personal branding. So most of the books that I read were more around mindset and thinking, and that then adds on to your personal brand. So I'd say if I was to recommend, I recommend actually one book. It's called Black Box Thinking. Black Box Thinking by Matthew Syed, Syed.
Okay.
It's a really, really great book that just talks about perception, perception of the world, perception of failure, how we view creativity as well. And it's an awesome book, which I highly
Awesome.
recommend. Yeah.
Okay, cool. No, that's fine. I've noted that down, and I'm hoping that if there's someone here would want to get the book. I've written the name down if maybe you have missed it. Maybe before I continue, right, I just want to open the floor to our guests who have joined. You've actually, when you speak, as I say, that I can sense that you're speaking from your heart, and I could connect with what you were saying. But I would like to know around the room if there's any question, if there's any comment or anything that you would like him to expand a little bit on from the points that he has highlighted. You don't have to turn the camera on if you're not comfortable.
Okay, hi guys. This is
Anissa.
Anissa. Hi, Pako. So first I'd just like to give a comment. This was such a great talk. I'm really getting a lot of insights from the discussions. So from my side, I just want to maybe Pako to expand more on, he spoke about part of personal branding also includes how you speak about yourself and what you speak about others, right? So I just want to know, maybe expand on that, whereby from my side, I'm not an introvert. I wouldn't say I'm an extrovert, but I'm somewhere in between. So how do you go about doing that while speaking about yourself in a way that you don't come across as if you're bragging or it's a bit too much, as well as what sort of also, and then how does it relate on the flip side, where you also have to be intentional about how you speak about others? Yeah.
And then, okay, so we'll take Anissa's question, and then after that, we'll take Mr. Mukari's question. I think you can address Anissa's one.
Yeah, thanks for that, Anissa. So I'd say that the speech aspect comes into play because what we say is based on how we think. So if you imagine someone who is timid or shy, they don't have to tell you that they are timid. You can tell it from how they speak about themselves. Someone who is timid has a lot of self-doubt, so their thoughts are filled with doubt about themselves. And so when they speak, they tend to water themselves down. They tend to undermine themselves and to debase themselves in their speech. And so these are things that are minor to the speaker, but to us who are listening to this person speak over and over and over again, it builds a certain perception that we have of them. And unfortunately, it's a negative perception. So I can say the same thing about someone who is outgoing or confident. You can tell from how they speak about themselves, they value themselves, and they are always positive when it comes to talking about something that they've done or their awards and achievements and the likes, without playing down other people. And so that's where the importance of speech comes in. Then there's a second part to the question. If you don't mind just running that by me again.
Okay, so the second one would be where you spoke about, you also have to be intentional about how you speak about others. How do you sort of balance that out in a way that also, you're also being authentic, right? You're not overly maybe praising people or however it is that you meant it. How do you authentically go about that?
Okay, so speaking about others is basically about, okay, one, yes, you want to be authentic, but you also want to be socially aware and to be respectful and courteous and kind towards others as you speak about them. So let's say someone in your circle upset you and you're telling a friend about what happened. So here your brand comes into play in terms of how you speak about the person, in terms of being honest that they were wrong, but in how you frame it and how you refer to them. Is it coming across as being objective, or are you being triggered by it? You know, are you being spiteful? You know, are you trying to bash their names in or something negative? You know, is there an element of malice in how you're talking about the person, you know? And I mean, we all get wronged by people, you know, people step on our toes all the time, but then our brands matter, or rather our brands are revealed when we speak about those other people to another party. You know, how do we frame that conversation? What kind of words are we using in talking about other people to third parties? And that's how I meant it.
Okay. Anissa,
All right.
are you okay?
Yeah, that was so nice. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Mukari.
Thank you, sir. Can you please confirm if you can hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So, yeah, firstly, I would just like to appreciate you guys for having organized such a beautiful platform. I think it's very intimate, especially because there isn't a lot of us, so it's very easy to engage. And I must say that it hasn't even been an hour, but there's a lot that I personally have gained so far. I've been taking some notes, so that's highly appreciated. My question is drawn more from a personal level and own personal experiences. So I work in the social services space where my job is basically to serve the community. And I also work with, so I'm leading a team that also serves the community with me. But my question would be, and also I would like to believe that I've sort of branded myself accordingly in that space because of how I conduct myself and my character, and because of the people that I lead, right? But at the end of the day, I want to say that there's some things that do not sit well with me at the end of the day, especially after I've knocked off from work, because now I need to now become myself. And I find myself not visiting certain places and spaces, especially social gatherings, because if I am seen in such places, it will look like I shouldn't be here, or it's wrong of me to be there, depending on what kind of social gathering that is. Could be a pub, it could be a club. I'm just giving an example. So I find myself not going to certain areas because I know that this is where I'm most likely to bump into the people that I serve because of the nature of work that I do. Then I avoid such places. But at the end of the day, I feel like I'm robbing off myself of me being me and doing the things that make me happy at whatever time that I feel I should be doing those things. So my question would be, how can I balance the two and still maintain the character and the personal brand that I've created in the space where I'm with the people that I serve? Because sometimes it's difficult to make people understand that you are also a human being and you have a life to live. People expect you not to be dressed in a certain way. When people bump into you in certain places, it's like, you are also here. So but they forget that I also have a life to live, right? So my question would be around there to say, how can I balance that? Because at the same time, that can also cost me my clients, isn't it? It can also tarnish my image as a person. So my question would be around that. I hope it's clear, but thanks a lot.
Mr. Pako.
All right, no, cool. All right, no, thanks for that, Mr. Mukari. So, when you're speaking, I couldn't help but liken what you're saying to a police officer trying to have fun after hours, because I think there's a similarity, between that, being that you are known as someone who, not to say that you enforce the law per se, but there's that similarity. So I'd say, with every profession comes a sacrifice. There comes a cost. I'll use myself as an example. So as a personal branding consultant, a lot of what I put on social media is looked at with a certain eye because I'm in the branding space, and because I appeal to corporate clients. There are certain pictures that I can share. There are certain jokes that I can post on Facebook or Instagram and the likes because of the kind of business that I'm in. And I think even in your case as well, I think one is to accept that the field that you are in, because it's so social, and because of the type of matters that you deal with as well, there definitely comes that element of sacrifice. There are certain things that unfortunately you will have to forego as long as you are in that space. And it's a tough cost, it's a tough cost because, as you are saying, you're still human, you want to live, you want to enjoy life and party and socialize. But as long as you are wearing that hat of being a social worker during the day, unfortunately, people cannot divorce the profession from the person. Just like a cop, if you know me as a cop during the day, and then after hours, you're at the club and I'm there as well, you suddenly sober up quickly, you sober up, and like, you don't even need water. You just on the spot, you sober up. But so unfortunately, it's that kind of line, sir. And it's a tough one. It's a tough one. You might have to party outside the province, at this rate where people don't know you. So people unfortunately aren't that compartmentalized, like in terms of mentally, they can't take you and put you here, then their profession there. They just combine the two of you as one. And so it's part of the package, and unfortunately, boss.
Mr. Mkari. Okay.
No, I'm covered. So thank you so much. I think I'm forgetting that when I signed my oath, I had forgotten that it would need to come with, it sacrifices some of the things I would love to do. But thank you so much.
Sure.
All right. Okay, cool. I think we have taken 2 questions from the floor, and I see we only have a few minutes, 7 minutes, until we at the end of the session. So before I continue, I have 2 more questions left. I just wanted to check if there is any other question from the floor. This is actually very interesting. Like in a few minutes, I think I've learned a lot myself here. I've written down a lot of notes that I'm going to have to revisit later. Is there anyone on the floor from the floor who would like to ask any other question, or if there's anything that you would like him to expand on before we continue? Okay. I would assume that that means there isn't, right? So now back to the business side of your life, right? You did mention that when you started, you're doing it with your heart and you're doing it for free, helping people build themselves, but then now turning that into monetizing that then became a little bit of a challenge because people know you to be doing this for free. Now you're charging us, and then also even when you were charging, you couldn't even charge what you would want to charge because you're coming from a place of I was doing this to actually help the people. But currently, right, what kind of issues do your clients present to you? Like, if do they come and say, I have a business and that I feel like I need to build myself a little bit. I am not visible anyway. Or what kind of issues do they bring to you to say, they actually present to you as to you is a business opportunity, but to them is as a problem? What are those issues that you encounter often, and how do you normally handle them?
So I'd say the most common issue that I encounter is clients that have challenges with believing in themselves, so issues with self-esteem and self-confidence are by far the biggest issues that I face. So and that's why when I do a coaching program, the first part of it is actually psychology. Then we get into the branding in phase 2 and onwards. So the psychology aspect of it is really about helping a client to believe in the skills or the talents that they have. Then from there, we look at their outfit and the other aspects of the brand. Then I'd say the second challenge is people who struggle with how to sell or package themselves. Someone will say, you know what, I'm a great singer, but I don't know how to package myself as a singer. And so there I would help them work out the type of brand that they want to build, the target market they're trying to appeal to, and then a strategy of how to build up that brand and attract the right target market that they are looking at, basically. Audience.
Okay, cool. So in like, as we wrap this conversation up, so we have 4 minutes left. I think you mentioned the issue of confidence and also packaging your own brand so that you're able to appeal to the right audience, right? So as we wrap this up, what advice would you? I think you've been giving advice from the very start, but as a wrap up, what 2 main things that you would want us to go with, to leave this meeting with, around personal branding and authenticity? Because I feel like this was, this was at the core of this topic, to say how can we anchor ourselves on who we really are, and how can we be more authentic in terms of how we present ourselves, how we carry ourselves, and how we actually appear to our target market.
So I'd say one, just to echo your last point, authenticity is everything in personal branding. You never want to build something which is not real. It's not the real you, because you'll then be burdened with the task of sustaining a lie and keeping that lie alive, and you're going to pass under that pressure. Then the second thing that I'd also add around personal branding is that we all have personal brands. We often think of it as something that's just for artists and celebs, public figures and the likes, but all of us here on this call have a personal brand. The only difference is that our brands tend to be, I'd say, organic. They are based off just how we carry ourselves on an everyday basis. Unfortunately, when we are very lax with our character and our speech and our image, the negative aspects are what comes out a lot. So in you building your brand, is just about being intentional about the current brand that you have and driving it towards a specific direction that you want to get to.
Okay. Thank you so much. I think this was one of those conversations that literally I could, like, as I said, I could feel it as you talk, and the questions that were asked on the floor, I think they were very relevant. So, and to everyone who actually joined, I would really want to appreciate you guys. Thanks for joining. I hope you did pick 1 or 2 things, even though you didn't necessarily ask questions and all that kind of stuff. But I do hope that but I would like to know what you think. Even though you didn't ask a question, I would really like to know what your thoughts are. And to Mr. Pako, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. I think this was I'm going to share it with my wife. She couldn't join, but I'm going to quickly take you through to say, okay, this is basically what you have missed out. So we are going to have similar sessions. I commit to having one session a month that I can commit to with different people, like as I've said, people who are pushing boundaries in their spaces, and just to get to learn from them. Because I think from you, Mr. Pako, I have learned a lot. Also, when it comes to personal branding, I feel like you've spoken about a lot of things that personally I wasn't aware of, and I really have also benefited a lot from having you guys coming here. And the questions that were asked, thank you so much. I have yourself a good evening. Donley, I know you're recording. I'm not even sure what's supposed to happen from here. Do you pause? Do you stop? I don't know. Please do it on your side. But thank you so much, Anissa. Thank you, Malebopo. Hey, yeah, and thank you, Mr. Pako. I really appreciate it.